seminal presidents.
He could.
Could. What does he have to do to achieve that status?
Well, he has to do certain things, and he has to have some luck. Although I believe in the Branch Rickey statement.
When he was a general manager of the
luck is the
Dodgers.
residue of design.
What did he say?
He said luck is the residue of design.
Right.
He said it about baseball.
I know.
But
from 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder. And we still, and after 9/11, we've been more sensitive to this.
Jihadist movement. So he can't really say that it's one problem that is the most important one. But he can give a new impetus to American foreign policy, partly because the reception of him is so extraordinary around the world. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
France intends to pursue, together with all people of goodwill around the world, this battle to build the new world order of the 21st century. It is a new mindset that the world now needs. It is a real global New Deal that we need, an ecological and an economic New Deal that we need. In the name of France, I call upon all states to join ranks in order to found the new world order of the 21st century on this strong idea that the common goods of mankind must be placed under the responsibility of the whole of mankind.
In Europe, the view that America is part of what has gone wrong in our world rather than a force to help us make it right has become all too common. Yes, there have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. A change of leadership in Washington will not lift this burden. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity.
What did he say?
he said luck is the residue of design. Residue of design.
You see what sending out them negative waves did, Moriarty?
But oddball, I did try and tell them, but they won't listen. I tried.
Sure.
But I did try.
Oh, man. Don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning.
But I can't force them to listen. I can't.
Always with the negative waves, Moriarty. Always with the negative waves.
Have a little faith, baby. Have a little faith.
But I keep trying. Oddball, I keep trying. But they won't listen. They won't tune in. They really won't.
Why don't you knock it off with them negative waves? Why don't you dig how beautiful it is out here? Why don't you say something righteous and hopeful for a change?
Tune in to Awake Radio for your positive...
You talking to me? Don't you talk to me. Listen, I'll tell you. The trouble with this Tory government is what they're doing to people like me in the area. See people like him, see people like me. It's OTT all together. Yeah. And you mean you can talk about your 30s? Your 30s, eh? Christ, I lived through the 30s. I had TV. I had ringworm. And I saw a jazz singer 4 times. Christ, I know what I'm talking about. I mean, you can talk about your Holocaust. That's fair enough, your Holocaust. But Christ, that was a sky compared to this. That was a doodle compared to this. I mean, have you tried getting a sick line after 5 days, eh? No. Hey, don't you talk to me. Talk, man, be your question. And the best is you can see the buggers. See them sitting there on the telly in their dinner jackets, sitting there, having their dinners with their yaddy-da this and their laddy-da that. And see when it comes through you, they're way better than I am. In fact, they're worse than I am. There you are. They're worse than I am, scum. What does that mean, eh? I mean, maybe you can work it out because I can't. But then again, who am I, eh? Who am I? Eh? Nah. See when you scrape it all away. Or a crap and you get right down to it. You mean right down to the bottom line. They're all a lot of jumped up fascists, that's what they are. Tell you something else, son, I should know, for I was an inspector in the buses. But I mean, what is the answer? Eh? I mean, maybe you can tell me what the answer is, because I'm Donald Duck if I know what the answer is. What was your question again?
Welcome to the Granadas Workshop on the 9th of the 9th, 2013, and rather unsettled Granada at the moment. Kind of had a few upside downs here and upsets and so on, so I'm kind of not getting it together. Okay, this week's show probably won't blow your mind this week, but I have some really good news and some not so good news and some encouraging news. Really, that's basically about the size of it this week, guys. As you know, I've been kind of up to my ears and lots of things like building work, which is coming to an end, and it's making things a little bit difficult for me to breathe with the fumes and so on. I'm just going to turn my mic up here, guys, 1 second. And as I say, it's made it a bit more difficult for me to breathe and so on. So there's such a mess. There's so much dust and so on. It's quite incredible, guys. So bear with me. I keep saying this. We will get better. I'm certainly trying to get better. And just before I come on air, my cat decided that it was going to launch itself somewhere and decided to launch a cup of coffee all over the place. And so things are rather unsettled today. Okay. As you realise, guys, we're simulcasting with We Roar Radio. Well, we were simulcasting with We Roar Radio. We're no longer doing that, unfortunately. There was a disagreement with April and she declined our services, and unfortunately that's just the way of it. But on the plus side, Shiz's Radio is up and running. We are simulcasting with Shiz's Radio. Shiz has had a lot of troubles with servers and various things, and the long and the short of it, he seems to got to the bottom of it. Whoever was messing or doing whatever they were doing, he's managed to solve, so that's great to hear. And I would just like to say, as far as Shiz's Radio, great to be associated with them and simulcasting with them and trying to do as much as we possibly can. I really think it's a big thing for Awake Radio to be working alongside and trying to do the thing that we were saying we were going to do. We'll work with other radio stations. I think Shiz's Radio is of the same mind as Awake. So try and make the most of it, guys. There will be a few hosts coming from Shiz's Radio. Muddy Mudman, I believe, is one of them, and Cluggy's another, and I'm sure you've met Cultus and Ken, and if I've forgotten anybody, forgive me. But these guys are just going to get used to Sam's and things like that, and then once they feel confident with Sam's, they shall be on air, I would say, in the near future. I'm really pleased to be associated with Shiz's Radio, and they have the same kind of feeling about the radio as we do. You know, we try and be honourable and respectful in what we do. We try to give out good information, and we allow people to make up their own minds as to whether they think something's right or wrong. And for me, that's really try to be an open policy. Everything we put on here can't be exactly true because some of it's contradictory. But it's up to the listener to discern from themselves what's right and wrong. And we can try and do that as respectfully as we possibly can. And work around our differences, guys, and just work together. Realise that we have a common enemy out there that we really want to try and not attack and beat and kill, but we just want to stop so that we can have a reasonable life instead of being stood on or trodden on, wore down by this new world order. And it is, it's a big part of what it really all is about. It's really, that is the only thing that we should be concentrating on, not concentrating on our differences. Okay, guys, this is a wee pod. I'm gonna break things up fairly rapidly, I would say, on some occasions, because, as I say, my breathing isn't great, guys. So this wee pod that's coming up is The Dream by Ken Anderson, which you guys have probably seen in the chat, if not heard on the radio. And he gave this to me today, so I asked him if we could play it, and he said go ahead. So enjoy, folks. This is The Dream.
What is the dream? The dream is to bring brilliant minds from every nation together to solve the world's problems, one positive pebble at a time. It will be we the people of the world that bring about true change, peace and love to all. Governments never solve any problem, only create them. Wars, starvation, sickness, oppression, financial slavery, death and destruction is what governments do best. When all the military might of nations is used to destroy other nations, the question has to be asked, why not use that military strength for good? Feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, heal the sick, and so forth. True representation of truth, freedom, and justice comes from we the people, and it never came from slick-talking politicians that say whatever they have to get elected, and then regulate away your freedoms. There is no reason to have starving babies in the world of today. Yet, it goes on. There's no reason for wars and sickness, yet it continues. We as the people must stop feeding that beast that is eating humanity alive. We the people of all nations have the power to bring about a literal heaven on earth. You as an individual have more power than you can possibly imagine. You have the power of the spoken word. You have the power of the pen, the power of action, and most of all, the power of love. It is time to use this power to make our world a better place. We're the founding fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers of our children and of our children's children's future. Into the future and beyond, what we do today will define the world that they live in tomorrow. Let us from every nation come together and make that future a great.
Thanks for staying tuned to Awake Radio and simulcasting with Shaz's Radio. I want to keep calling it Shazrad all the time. So. Okay, guys, just keeping on with a little bit of news and what's happening with the simulcast with Shaz's Radio. A lot of our guys are going to be simulcasting. One of the people that will be simulcasting is Reality Bites. And as you guys may well be aware, that they really haven't had any live shows in the last few weeks. Well, that's going to change just very, very shortly, guys. There'll be a few more weeks that they're off air, and they will be back on the 26th of September. And really, everybody seems to be going through the mill at the moment. Life seems to be taking its toll in many directions. Neil Foster, who's the host on Reality Bites, his producer, came into a little bit of bad luck, if you might say. I mean, I hope I'm not talking out of turn by saying this, but him and himself, his wife, both lost their jobs within the same month, which has got to be a big enough hit in itself. And next off, they'd bought a lot of equipment to be able to go broadcasting and go basically mobile broadcasting cameras and so on. And of course, it got robbed. Really, Rick has not been having a great time of it, and he's been so bad that he hasn't been able to get on air or so on, but I believe they're getting themselves pretty much organised by the 26th of this month. And also Neil Foster has had his troubles as well, because he hasn't had a producer, and I hosted for him for a few weeks there, and he's jaunting all over the place and was basically waiting for a position, which I'll leave him to tell you what the position was, guys. But it enables him to become much more active in the areas of radio and doing the right thing. Neil, it's really glad that Neil is got this position, and he's going to be able to do a lot more in this terms of his website is in Sovereign Independent and Reality Bites radio show. So, try and give him a little bit of support, guys. This really have been through the mill, these guys. And these were the people that, I don't know if you recall, were at Bilderberg and did a lot of videos and simulcasting from there. So they really get out and about, guys, and they really bring in the good guests and relative guests to it. So, yeah, that's another good thing on the horizon. You just may have to wait a couple of weeks, and as I say, Neil keep you posted to what's happening. As I say, I don't really want to steal his thunder in that sense. He also contacted me today, and he was saying he's got some kind of fancy iPad, touchpad, 4G thing, which will allow him to do interviews from virtually anywhere. So that's rather encouraging news as well. So, as he's out and about, hopefully he should be able to pick up some interesting guests and maybe get some spur-of-the-moment guests too, which would really be appreciated. Sorry guys, I didn't realise that I'm breathing into the mic, and I'm trying not to do that as much as I possibly can. So, as I say, things are looking very good in a lot of the hosts. Things are changing. I say we've had a lot of technical problems, guys, and thanks for your patience for putting up with us, and especially when we were simulcasting with Shiz, and somebody was messing around with the servers and so on. So you've got to remember, guys, we're all amateurs. We all do this because we want to do it, and we feel it's the right thing to do. And we just try and do as good a job as we possibly can. And we know for sure that we get messed around with. Absolutely, definitely, And so we don't expect a consistent approach to the radio, because there's usually something blocking it, or something happening. Skype's playing up, or the encoders will not work, or so on. But we'll keep on going, and they won't grind us down. It's as simple as that. Because the fact is, we love what we do. We think it's the right thing to do. I believe that's coming from every host on Wake Radio, Shiz Radio, can't remember the name of it now. Even MSI and what's the other one? Dark City Radio, and that was the one I couldn't remember. Yeah, I mean, guys, all these radio stations out there are all trying to get the message out. You've got to discern from yourself. And we don't expect you to stay on Awake Radio. We don't expect you to stay on Shiz Radio. But if you do find our shows are good and informative, tell people, bring them to us, and then go to other radio stations and see what they've got to offer, because I'm sure a lot of them really have a lot of good stuff to offer. Okay, another wee quick break, guys. As I say, I'll have to do this fairly frequently. I really won't be doing the 2 hours this evening, guys, because I really don't know. I don't think I have the breathing for it this evening. As I say, my apologies, guys. It's just the building work here is destroyed what breathing I have at the moment, and everything seems to be fuming off, and the dust is affecting me greatly. Really, I wasn't too bad this morning. I thought everything would be good, and then the plaster was in today and did some work, and it's just set my breathing off again. So I will keep apologising to you guys as far as that sense, because I really do want to try and bring you something that's reasonable and worthwhile to listen to. So I appreciate your patience. Okay, there'll just be a couple of wee jingles here maybe, and a tune. Be back soon.
You talking to me? Don't you talk to me, hey. Listen, I'll tell you. The trouble with this Tory government is what they're doing to people like me, and there you are. See people like him, see people like me. It's OTT all together, yeah. And you mean you can talk about your 30s? Your 30s, eh? Christ, I lived through the 30s. I had TV, I had ringworm. And I saw the jazz singer 4 times. Christ, I know what I'm talking about. I mean, you can talk about your Holocaust. That's fair enough, your Holocaust. But Christ, that was a sky compared to this. That was a doodle compared to this. I mean, have you tried getting a sick line after 5 days, eh? No. Hey, don't you talk to me. And the best is you can see the buggers. See them sitting there. sitting there on the telly in their dinner jackets, sitting there, having their dinners with their yaddy-da this and their laddy-da that. And see when it comes through you, they're way better than I am. They're way better than I am. In fact, they're worse than I am. There you are. They're worse than I am scum. What does that mean, eh? I mean, maybe you can work it out because I can't. But then again, who am I, eh? Who am I? Eh? Nah. See when you scrape it all away, all the crap, and you get right down to it. You mean right down to the bottom line. They're all a lot of jumped up fascists. That's what they are. You know, something else that I should know, for I was an inspector in the buses. But I mean, what is the answer? Eh? I mean, maybe you can tell me what the answer is, because I'm Donald Duck if I know what the answer is. What was your question again?
That was Scotland's very own Rap C. Nesbitt. And for you non-Scots out there, yes, he was speaking English, folks. I thought I would sort of pick that up and throw it in there, guys, and give you a little bit of a laugh. I'm trying to get more of those kind of things, more a bit humorous and try and give us a bit of a laugh as we're going through these serious issues. So that's Rab C. Nesbitt, and really, if you go on YouTube and have a wee look, watch out for some bad language, guys, if you are going, but I deleted the bad language out of that one. So, but it is pretty funny, and it kind of shows you the kind of people that they want bred, this new world order, really limited intelligence and trapped in a way of life that makes it virtually impossible for you to get out of, and you tend to retreat to the bar, would probably be the best way of explaining it. And people who like to drink and forget what they're going through and what their problems are. So, yeah, that's Rab C. Nesbitt, folks, if you want to have a wee look up. And it can be very humorous and very crude at times, but certainly you can actually get it with subtitles too, although it is actually in English. It's kind of an Anglo-Scots Scots-English mix, and I know you guys out there have a little bit of trouble sometimes with my accent, so. The trouble is, when we start talking in a posh kind of way, nobody really sort of, it doesn't sound very right. So I'll try to refrain from doing that. I just try and be as clear as I possibly can. Okay, on with the news again. I did say about Reality Bites being back on the 26th of September, and it'll be really good to see those guys back. There is actually other house news that I've forgotten to write down, but it will become apparent in the next wee while. Okay, last Friday, I ended up going to the Santos stock, which I'll let you know more about that in a little while. Sorry guys, I'm grabbing. I told you before, I have 2 computers and 2 keyboards, 2 mice, kind of thing. And I've done about twice as much typing as I've done in many a moon, because I keep grabbing the wrong keyboard, typing it and thinking, what's going on? So it really has been twice as much typing, but no progress. So, but anyway, I went to Santos on Friday, and obviously I was late back, which I couldn't really do the NHF show on Friday, 8 till 9. I said I was going to do the first show. The first show will be this Friday, and it'll be just basically NHF Codex Alimentarius based show. As I've explained to you, we'll get NHF speakers on as well, and over the period of weeks once we get a little bit settled. But this Friday, I'm going to sort of go into just a grounding of what the NHF is all about and Codex Alimentarius, and I'm going to do a little bit today. If my breathing holds out, I'm going to read a little article and just explain to you guys. Most of you probably already know what the deal is, but we have many listeners out there that may not be aware of Codex and why I put so much emphasis on trying to do something about Codex and helping the NHF. There will be a show 8 till 9 Friday, this Friday, coming Friday. As I say, I really couldn't sort of do it on Friday because of the Santos thing and coming back and just thinking the place was like a bomb in it as well. So it just really didn't make it possible, and I was kind of bust as well as far as energy levels have gone. So yeah. Also, to do with the NHF, I've been really trying to find appropriate and valid Codex Alimentarius videos and relative to the NHF. And really there's nothing, guys, so it's a wee bee in my bonnet, and I've decided, right, well, I'm going to do a YouTube video for Codex and the NHF and try and get the message over. It seems every time you go into YouTube, the only thing you get with Codex is Rima Lobo playing on the emotions, telling you 5 million people's going to die and all sorts of things. So, and very, very little on the NHF, and really they're the guys that should have the leading role in that area. So, kind of any spare moments I'm going to have, I'm going to get a YouTube video together, and that'll go hand in hand with doing the NHF show. Before I go on to the Santos thing, I had a really good bit of news here, guys, and I'm fairly certain that the person that it came from was telling me the truth, and you know, it sort of given me a good info on what was happening. Bundy, the gentleman who used to broadcast with us, and we're hoping he's going to get himself sorted and come back and broadcast with us some more. The last I spoke to Bundy in the sense of as in radio, his terms, was I said I'd leave his slot open. He's still a host here, and he said to me about maybe getting some discs to me of some pre-recorded shows that I could play that nobody would have heard. But Bundy, as many of you guys will know, was really going through the mill, you know, really, really bad, guys, you know, and we can sympathise with him, and I certainly was going to be the last person to put any pressure on him to do any radio. He did contact me a few weeks ago, saying that he had to get out of his house, and he was no longer going to be there, and that was more or less the sum total of the information that I got. Obviously trying to help him as much as I possibly could. I offered him a bed here in Ireland and so on, but there was no contact back. His internet obviously was sketchy, so he really couldn't get any messages, I don't think. But the information that I've had since is that Bundy is actually living in a place, like a small place that was built out in the wilderness, if you like, living off the land and doing his thing. And his form seems to be in much better form, in the sense of he's in a much better place, if you like, in his head. You know, he's probably living the life that he wants to live, because Bundy was a great man for the water and nature, as you guys know. Unfortunately, his family isn't with him, but I believe that he is seeing his kids and his wife, and so things really look good in that sense compared to where Bundy was. Really, I was really happy to hear that news, and I'm really, really happy that I can relay that info to you guys over the internet, because I know that Bundy is a very, very well loved person, and or man, I should say. And he is sadly missed on the Wake Radio. I certainly miss him as far as his broadcast and the knowledge that a man imparted. And he's a wordsmith. He had a way with words that you know, that made you sit and listen, even though he might not have been talking about something very interesting at that time. You still wanted to listen. So for me, it'd be great to get Bundy back. I would love for him to just give me a shout and say, you know, I'm back, and his slot's there ready and waiting for him. As I'll do my utmost in that sense to try and do that. But at the moment, I don't think he has internet access where he is and in the country. We'll just have to play it by ear, folks, and any other information that I get about Bundy, I'll certainly relay it to you. But he's safe and well, and seems to be on the up, and so thank God for that, as far as I can say. And it's good to hear. Another quick break again, guys. This is the Awakening Speech for Ireland, and a wee tune at the back of it. Thanks for your patience.
Where are we going in this world? Who are these men that drive us into darkness? Why do we lie in our beds and wonder and fear for our lives? They steal our grace and take the bread from our mouths. Our children who like the world with magic sleep as new rules are created that will snuff out the flames and wildness in their hearts in a future being stolen from them in silence. On this day our lives go on. On this day our will is challenged over and over. But on this day there is still the rain. There is still the blue sky and the dying sun. On this day, hospitals will close, and more will perish in future woes. On this day, thieves smile at us in suits, yet we grip our fists and say nothing. We are the millions. We are what's left of will and love and nobility. To stand idly by and sleep as the betrayal grows deeper like a wound is unbearable now. They plan to save us by killing us in inches. Ireland and so many places in the world are magnificent and breathtaking. But if they came for our money and our way of living, what is next? All our land, our precious resources, our culture and our very song. They plan to turn our smiles into masks to serve their broken souls. But the sum of our will is greater than all their rules and terror inflicted as we strive in our humble lives. And we are endless and wild and free, and greater because we want a better life, not one drowning in greed and soiled with a coward's wishes. There is an ocean of courage that resides in us. It is a flame that needs one spark to ignite it. We are moving into the unknown in this world, but the light is rising. Beauty is rising. Truth is the rock that runs through time, that runs through the haunted calls of our ancestors around the planet. Our unity will save us, and we, like the vines of a rope, will be forged into 1 billion strong by our loss, by our sorrow, by our indignation. A light is rising, and it is a hard light, full of anger and shimmering beauty, and it represents us all. It will burn out those who hide behind the veil that seeks to cover this earth in destruction. We will all stand at the edge of this precipice and watch them leave forever, and our shame must burn in the fuel of our unity. And now there is something worth fighting for, and if we try and yet fail, we can live with ourselves for the trying of it, and our dignity will echo for those yet to come. We are the many, the few, and the one. Peace to you all.
A letter from Shaziz. To bring brilliant minds from every nation together and solve the world's problems one positive pebble at a time. It will be we the people of the world that bring about the true change, peace, and love to all. Governments solve no problems. If the intent was to do so, it would already be done. Wars, starvation, sickness, oppression, financial slavery, death, and destruction is what governments do best. With all the military might of every nation, governments use their power to destroy nations. The question is, why not use that might to bring to the hungry food, shelter the homeless, heal the sick, and so on? True representation of truth, freedom, and justice comes from we the people, and has never came from slick-talking politicians that will say whatever they have to get elected and then regulate away our freedom. There is no reason for a starving baby to exist in our world of today, but yet it goes on. There is no reason for wars and sickness, yet it continues. We must stop feeding the beast that is eating humanity alive. We, the people of all nations, have the power to bring about a literal heaven on earth. You, as an individual, have more power than you can possibly imagine. You have the power of the spoken word. You have the power of the pen. You have the power of your actions, and most of you have the power of love. It is time to use this power to make our world a better place. We are the founding fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and cousins of our children and our children's children of the future. Into the future and beyond, what we do today will define the world that they live in tomorrow. Let us from every nation come together and make that future a great one. From Shaziz, peace and love to all.
Fine words by Shaziz, read by Muddy Mudman. And yeah, that speaks volumes, guys. I would really like you to take that to heart and, you know, put that message across to everybody that you see. Certainly, everything that happens has to come from us as a sovereign, and really just live with honour and respect. I really believe that if we live with honour and respect, people won't go hungry, people won't go cold, because it's simple. If you live that kind of life, you won't see an injustice going in front of you. You will help that person. You'll do everything you can to make people have a nice life, nice, good life. And, you know, I really encourage all of you to take that to heart. Forget our differences, embrace each other. And really, I spoke about this to Paula during the week. I really do believe that's where it comes from. It comes from us being true sovereigns, being honourable and respectful in your lives. And we start now. And if we start now, we can lay the foundation for what can happen in the future for our kids. If we don't start now, we think we're not making any progress and give up. You know, we're not gonna progress anywhere. Doing something is better than doing nothing. As I say, if we start now, living in honour and respect, then I really do believe that we can lay the foundations for, like my son, your sons and daughters, nephews, all people concerned, really out throughout the planet. Simple as. It really is as simple as, guys. And that's where I think we should start from. A lot of you are probably interested in what happened with the Santos talk. They sort of put people in the picture that are maybe not aware. Santos held a talk in Belfast on Friday, run by Capricorn Radio James Swagger. It was arranged by him and set up, and he did the best he could in a very, very short period of time, which I thank him for his efforts. He did a real great job considering the time. So, I'll kind of make a little bit of a story out of it, guys, obviously without trying to talk too much, but it gives you, I want to sort of point out two things that happened on this day. One was obviously why it was stopped, and another issue that I kind of discovered. But essentially, as it went, myself and my friend went to see Santos. When we got there, it was kind of like an old, dilapidated building. It was getting worked on in the sense that, you know, there was new fitments and things like that going in, and toilets and stuff. You could see they would be worked on, and it wasn't a fine specimen of a building, but it was entirely practical and really okay, fit for purpose, I would have said. No, very, very old building in Belfast, and as I say, there was definitely work that had been progressed through. Clearly not finished, but certainly not dangerous. So, we got to see Santos. You know, he started his talk. He did some like 2 hours, and he really laid the basis to his talk for the afternoon. He grounded everybody in where he was going with the talk and so on. It was very interesting talk. Fortunately, I kept feeling cold in the building, and I was pleased that one was sort of semi-pleased when my friend said he was cold too. Considered I'm like a beanpole, have no body fat to keep me warm. I was kind of consoled with the fact that, yeah, it must have been cool in the place because he was feeling cold. But just like when you were at school and you were listening to a boring teacher, I was kind of getting the noddy head, starting to maybe want to fall asleep and so on, and my eyes started to sting. And, you know, I was aware that this was the case, and generally when you're cold and uncomfortable, you won't really feel that sleepy kind of way anyway. So I kind of made a mental note of it, watched the show, and I was interested in what Santos was saying. It wasn't that I wasn't interested in getting bored and wanting to go to sleep, but I was certainly aware of this effect. So Santos did his talk for about 2 hours, and then he decided we have a bit of lunch, and we resumed the talk, and an extra hour talk with another gentleman, which I forget his name at the moment. So Gary Evans, he was going to do an extra hour about Egyptian stuff and so on. So off we went for a spot of lunch to eat. We certainly got a nice wee spot and had a bite to eat, and obviously I didn't feel tired or eyes were stinging. I just put that down to the fact that I'd be moving around again and go out in the fresh air. So we had our lunch, came back, and we were standing looking at the building that the talk was being presented on. And right on the very top of the building was 2 cell phone masts, mobile phone masts. So I kind of thought, yeah, okay, that's a bit, yeah, we don't really want to be going under that. We know this stuff's not good for us, especially in close vicinity of it. So, yeah, we just mentioned it and left it at that. So, got back to the building. Within sort of 10 minutes, 15 minutes of being back in the building, Santos doing his talk. Back was the sleepy and back was the stingy eyes, and never really sort of dawned on me what the reason, but I've got a good belief it was those cell phone towers. Because when I came out of the building, I was back to normal again. I don't know if that is one of the symptoms of cell phone stations, what it would do to you, but it's certainly, I'm putting it out there. And if any of you guys have any clues if that's a similar symptom to what I was having, it would really give me some kind of idea, or maybe it was just me. So, back to Santos. So Santos got into his talk maybe, half an hour or something like that. There was a mention of a policeman. I believe that he'd maybe stuck his head round the door and then pulled it back in, and somebody went to see him. So Santos continued his talk, and the long and the short of it is that he got about 10 minutes further on. James had to come on the stage and say to him, "Nope, you've got to stop the talk." Santos asked why, and the police said had said they had to stop. So one of the audience said, "Well, you're not going to stop, are you? You've just being sovereign and consenting and all this kind of stuff." And Santos looked at him, so the guy says, "Look, I'll go and talk to him." So he went away and spoke to one of the policemen, which I didn't obviously hear the conversation. I'm just giving you my observation here, guys. I really don't know all of what happened, but it was a case of just showing you what I saw and what I heard, and that's all I can do. Gentleman went out and spoke to the police. Came back. He said there's 3 reasons. One, he says that the owner of the building isn't the owner of the building, and they had to cut the padlocks to get into the building. He says the second one is health and safety. And because of noise and people speaking, I didn't actually hear the third reason. So really, that was about the size of it, guys. We had to vacate the building, and it was rather sad because there was about 30 people had come from all over Ireland, and a couple of guys from England even had come over to see Santos. So it was a great shame. There was no health and safety issues, guys. I think that was pretty much an excuse. As far as the gentleman owning the building, I believe that he does own the building, but whether that was just an excuse, and locks getting cut off and things like that, I don't know. Really, it really was sad. As I say, there was a few really nice people there. We didn't get chatting too much to them because in the time that we were in the room, we were pretty much, Santos was talking, and I think after the event there would have been a time to maybe get to know various people and so on, but it didn't really happen that way. But as I said, very much a shame that the people that had paid money couldn't actually hear the whole talk, considering that there was no real health and safety issues, guys. They walk up a few stairs and sit on a seat, and you weren't really going anywhere in the building, and there wasn't really anything there that was going to cause a hazard in any way, shape or form. But an observation that we did make was that it was actually my friend that had made it, that in the first half of Santos's talk there was a gentleman sat in front of us which I hadn't really noticed or paid particular attention to him, but my friend believed that he was a policeman. I've yet to speak to my friend to what made him think he was a policeman, but that's what he did say. He says, "I thought he was a copper." The strange thing about it, this gentleman didn't appear for the second half of the talk, which you would think paying, 20 quid or 20 euros or so to go and see a talk, you know who you're going to see. You would have a fair idea what they were going to talk about, so to sort of only go to half the talk that did seem rather strange. And so once I speak to my friend, I'll find out why he thought that he may have been a policeman. But it may well have been that there was a policeman there just to see really what was going on and disrupt it at the most opportune moment, probably when he was out of the road and safe. That's probably what happened, and it's only an assumption. Don't take it as gospel. Yeah, it's. I believe that what really was going to go on in that building, as far as the talk, they really didn't want that kind of info to get out. Also, when we entered the building, the free man thing, there was a sign up, no implied right of access denied, and under common law and all this kind of stuff. That was on the door, guys. So I'm assuming that they don't really want that kind of thing to be getting promoted, or people to see what's going on in that area. It's my personal viewpoint, guys, and it's only my personal viewpoint, and I've looked at many kind of different angles of the law. But the free man thing, personally, in my opinion, doesn't work. And I've said this often, but it doesn't mean to say that it's not worth having a go and trying to do something and trying to get something to work. Essentially, for me, it's like if there's a bully and somebody being rather dishonest to you, no matter how honourable and how well you try to do things and honest you try to do things through the system, if they're being liars and cheats and downright bullies, no matter what you say to them isn't going to really make a difference. The only thing really I find that you can do, and this is what similar to Mark Stevens does, is essentially say, they have a claim that you've broke the law or whatever, and ask them to prove it. Very, very simplistic what I'm saying about Mark Stevens, and it's not quite as accurate as what I would like it to be, but you get the idea. You're not going in there not claiming to be the name. You're not going in handing them fee schedules and all sorts of things. Yeah, I agree. If you really truly believe that it's going to work, go ahead and try it. But my own thing is the free man thing doesn't really work, guys. It's a good concept and it runs on emotions, as Vin James says, but doesn't seem to be quite working. And I think in the end, really why it's not working is that bully isn't going to really pay you any attention, really, at the end of the day. And as I said, Mark Stevens is a kind of case of, well, prove it to me. And that really stops it going too far, because really they can't prove their acts and statutes as law, really, essentially. So, I'll look into it by all means, guys, but be very, very discerning when it comes to it. They have the notices up on the wall saying, implied right of access denied and all that kind of stuff, the whole shooting match, fee schedules, and the police just walked straight in there and did what they liked. So essentially what they did was said, right, you're out. Really, there was no argument by the people that were there. None of them really got irate or anything like that, or the tempers flared. It was all calm, it was all nice and easy. And essentially we just took our time, got to know as many people as we could in the short period of time that was left, and left the building. That's really about the size of the Santos thing, as many people will probably want to embellish and enlighten, embellish and enlarge the stories that they were probably fighting and the police threw us out and all that sort of stuff. That's really the basics of it, and nothing terribly exciting, but rather disappointing, I would say, for the people that went there. Santos was doing a good job with the talk, and James had done a really good job trying to organise it, as I'd said previously. It's a sad ending to what could have been a really sort of enjoyable day. I need another sort of breathing break here, guys, so probably a couple of tunes and we'll be back. Thanks for being patient. Welcome back to Awake Radio, guys. Simulcasting with Shazrad Radio. Okay, just to sort of finish off a little point there, Angel put in there, I think you're right, Steve. I think she's saying, yeah, I'm right about the free man stuff. I really say that, guys, because I'm not going to mention any names, but I know too many people that have lost houses over their free man thing. Not just houses, but property in the sense of cars and various other things. So, yeah, it's for me, if you're going to put your house on the line, you really got to be sure that what you're doing is absolutely correct. You know, not allow sort of emotions to play its part, and yeah, this will work without any sort of factual basis behind it, and taking into account that the powers that be, the powers that were, the powers that would like to be, or whatever you want to call them, are basically going to steamroller you a lot of the time anyway. So I would say that if you're going to go that route, you know, research it as much as you possibly can. And if you're going to do it, then the onus being on you. You've made the decision rather than sort of you've listened to somebody's advice and said, right, they said it'll work. If you're prepared to put whatever it is at risk, you feel confident about it, then go for it, yeah. But certainly be very discerning, guys. I'd be very dubious about using anything like that in court. And as I've said to you, I don't think it's a case of not trying. It's if you feel it's worth trying, then go ahead. If you feel it's worth researching that area, then go ahead. There may be something that you can do that others haven't done or thought of. So by all means, but I've just given you my personal opinion of that. So be very wary. Be very, very wary. The little pod that I just played there about conscription. Yeah, national service. It's it had its second reading 3 days ago in the Houses of Parliament. It's a private member's bill that's going through, and whether it's going to go fully all the way through is anybody's guess. It is entirely possible that they are going to put it through. But what I would suspect, this is just a little teaser, a wee test for us. And if this sort of goes through, and they'll see what kind of response that we make. And if we don't make any response, then they'll probably will bring it through in another bill and end up passing it. And I think really it's up to us to show our objection to this bill right now. You know, really give them food for thought that we will not allow this to happen. As I said to you, I think it's a beta test to see, you know, what our response is going to be to it. And if our response isn't angry enough, then they will bring it through. This is a thing that is going to affect every single person in the land once again. You may not be 16 to 26, which is the age limit, I think, for conscription. But you certainly have sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, whatever, that are going to be involved in some way, shape or form, even if it's your friends, daughters or sons or whatever. It's something we really must do something about. Yeah, Hellcat, yeah, well done Hellcat, thanks for putting that link up. I appreciate that. We really have to try and do something, even if it's just a case of bombarding them with emails or whatever it may be. I really do think that this one really deserves a little bit of attention, at least for a little while. And if we can maybe try and, I think it's Philip something Bone, Hollowbone, I think it is. I mean, even if we bombard him with the emails. Yeah, Mr. Philip Hollowbone, sorry. Private Members Bill, Presentation Bill. It's had its second reading on the 6th of the 9th, 2013. It's its second reading in the House of Commons is going to be the 28th of the 2nd, 2014. So it's late February next year is its second reading in the House of Commons. So I actually don't get that, because this is the last event, it was its second reading, and the next event is its second reading. So, but this is from the government's website themselves. So just shows you can't even get a web page right. Never mind getting the whole thing right. And we rely on them to run our country for them. Crazy stuff. But I mean, I have a 16-year-old boy. Yeah, it'd be concerning for me if they were to conscript them, especially as we know what we know about this New World Order, that they're not really wars as such. They're basically big sacrifices, and the multinationals and so on make lots and lots of money rebuilding the countries and the uniforms and the bullets and the missiles and so on. It's not anything about the people. It really isn't, guys. And any of you guys that really do think that out there really need to have a look and see what information you can gather, in the sense of realising that all wars are generally manipulated to the point where they really didn't need to happen, and innocent people generally get killed. And this is really what I think is going to be happening in Syria too. You know, it's the government used sarin gas, you know, and it's going to case you know, blow them to smithereens, you know. And if it isn't them, it's the terrorists, and it'll be blow them to smithereens. So whatever way, I think innocent people are going to die there, guys, and it's really going to be, I think it's going to be an important sort of part of this Middle East conflict that's brewing. The word World War III is coming up very, very soon, very, very frequently now, and it would seem that that's the way the human psyche is looking at it now. It's World War III is coming. And if that's the case, and we kind of know that if we think about things like that, that's when it kind of manifests. We want to try to think of something completely away from that. That's the last thing we want to be doing is going into those territories and killing innocents. There's just so much of it at the moment in that area. Palestinian people and the Kurds and all the different ethnic groups that they're just going through hell, guys. You know, we complain about taxes and various bits and pieces here, but we really don't have it bad compared to a lot of people. And I think we sit from the comfort of our armchair in front of computers and so on. All right, we may not have as much money as we might like, but certainly we don't have bombs raining down on us. We don't have a soldier kicking down our doors, and it wasn't so long ago, in the early 90s, that the troubles finished in Northern Ireland here, which you know, I'm glad to hear that it did. And there was many a house that got their door kicked in, and you know, soldiers come in, basically ransack the place, maybe grab a man out of his bed and you know, take him off to an unknown area. The family wouldn't have any idea where the man of the house would be taken. I'm trying to remember the name of what they call it. It's something like the internment thing, but it's not internment, and could be held basically indefinitely. You know, you didn't know whether you'd been taken away and shot, or, you know, and I'm talking about both sides here, guys. I'm talking about the British Army and the paramilitaries. The innocent pay. It's always the innocent that pay. And you're a person here. I keep saying person, and you're a man here, which he'd been a services forces man. You know, he was in the British Army, although he lived in Northern Ireland. Basically, he got blown up, and he realised that yeah, this is no good. You know what I mean? Peace is the way, so to speak. He'd made that vocal, so he was dragged in by one side and taken for a car journey, and he was taken by the other side and taken for a car journey. So essentially, he couldn't win either way. I mean, I'm laughing about it, folks, because you don't laugh at things like that. It would drive you crazy in a lot of senses, and I'm laughing in the sense that I know the fella, and he just laughed it off. He's, well, you know, in that position where, you know, if I go one way, I'm dead. If I go the other way, I'm dead. Fortunately, he's still alive, and he was left in peace, and he lives a comfortable life now, so to speak. So that kind of gives you an idea, you know, that this kind of war that's happening in the Middle East is very, very similar to what's been right next to your doorstep, and probably is on your doorstep. You just don't realise it. Instead of being soldiers, policemen are kicking down your doors. You know, this is not a way to live our life, guys, and I'm sure all you guys out there know. And this is why we do what we do, why we go on radio and try and bring out these things, these injustices, these cruelties. And I really don't think that conscription is going to make that any better. I really don't. I think we're just going to train and indoctrinate our youth into being robots. And essentially, when they go to national service, they will break that person, that man, and reprogram. If you see what military training is all about, that's what it's about. And it takes a very, very strong man to break that conditioning once you've been kind of reprogrammed by the military. It's tough going. And when your 16-year-old boy is being taken into the army and indoctrinated the way they are, broken and rebuilt again, you've lost your son. you really have lost your son as far as I'm concerned. That's really, I didn't bring a son up to kill anybody or to be killed by anybody for a useless, stupid war. Time for another break again, guys, and I just grabbed the wrong mouse again. Excuse me. Okay, Borrowed Time is up with John Lennon and a little Codex pod.
You're listening to Awake Radio, straight talk to the awake and aware.
Here are the facts. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, was created to preserve public health by regulating the quality of drugs, medical devices, food, cosmetics, and more. The FDA was originally established in 1930, but the origins of this agency date back to Congress's passing of the 1906 Pure Food and Drugs Act. By ensuring that manufacturers adhere to quality standards, this agency protects consumers. The FDA isn't perfect, but these regulations have saved millions of people from infections like trichinosis or salmonella, and they also try to prevent unsafe drugs from reaching the market. And the U.S. isn't the only government with a regulatory agency. Most countries have a department charged with protecting the public. In fact, the United Nations also sets specific regulations on food and drugs for the world as a whole. And there, say the conspiracy theorist, is the problem. The governments of the world don't want to save people from starvation. They want to control the food supply. Here's where it gets crazy. Conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones believe that elites throughout the world's government and industry are working together in secret to create a new world order. Most theorists who believe this also believe this group is taking control of the world's food production. As evidence, these theorists point to international accords like the Codex Alimentarius and domestic legislation like the Food Safety Modernization Act. They allege these laws remove individual and state control over the type of food people can consume. Another concern is that the regulation on vitamins and herbs will make it illegal for anyone other than multinational pharmaceutical companies to produce these substances. Theorists who believe these ideas also claim that the goal of this elite is the massive depopulation of Earth. Scary stuff, but could it be true? It's no secret that lobbyists had a hand in crafting the U.S. bill, and it's plausible that international companies also influenced UN legislation. But to what end? It's difficult to imagine that these laws could be enforced. Skeptics believe these fears are based on a misinterpretation of the laws. Skeptics also argue that the Codex Alimentarius is more like a set of suggestions, and it may not be legally binding. Another, more plausible conspiracy concerns agricultural corporations and genetically modified food. The idea here is that companies like Monsanto are breeding sterile, genetically modified seeds that force farmers to buy more seed each year, and that these companies are using their political influence to make the laws work for them rather than for consumers. Recent WikiLeaks cables dating from 2007 show that the U.S. State Department has been pushing genetically modified plants across Europe. Theorists also accuse these companies of buying patents for non-GMO plants and preventing their commercial use. This could effectively give large agribusinesses control of the world's food supply. Skeptics don't deny that companies might use their influence in underhanded ways, but that tendency doesn't guarantee success. And companies seeking profit are not the same thing as a global conspiracy to starve millions. GMO crops also have a higher yield, which means they can feed more people more efficiently. The decision here is a question of trust. Do you believe the FDA and similar organizations are here to protect you, or to control you? Are the aims of these organizations as altruistic as they sound, or is there something they don't want you to know?
Thanks for staying tuned to Awake Radio, folks. Sounded very dull, and but it is a mad world. And that brings us to Codex. And I said I would kind of go through a little bit of the Codex thing, knowing that most of you guys probably already know what the deal is with Codex Alimentarius, but a lot of people don't. So, for those who don't, Codex, I'm going to read a bit of an article, but Codex is essentially the World Food Plan, guys. For me, it really ranks very, very high in the list of something that we should do. There's so many things that we have to do to try and combat. We can gather rainwater, filter it, drink it. We can make water out of the air, if you like, with machines and so on. We can dig for water. There's many things we can do. Water we're readily available to those that are clever enough, essentially, or are prepared enough. So water, maybe not such a big problem, because we have streams and such like wells. But when it comes to food, it's a different kind of kettle of fish. Unless you have knowledge on wild foods, weeds, eating weeds like dandelions and so on, nettles and whatever, you're really kind of in a sticky wicket, because we all need food. We need a vast amount of it, really, considering what if you were to produce that for yourself. So Codex and the World Food Plan really is something that you guys should take a lot of care about and a lot of thought about. For me, there is that avenue, but there's also the avenue that Codex can save, and I do believe they've saved thousands of lives already. But they could save hundreds of thousands of lives, guys. They may not be able to stop Codex, because, as we know, the bullet just seems to steamroll everything that we do. But if we can slow it up, if we can inform people of the information that is right, and not the pharmaceutical junk and lies that they tell us, then we're going to help people. We're going to save people in some respect. You're never not going to know how much you've helped. But I really think it's the only way to try and get the word out and trying to help the NHF, who has a vote on Codex, try and slow this down, if not stop it. This is why I've kind of committed some energy to the NHF. I really do believe that it's a worthy cause to give it some kind of impetus and some kind of force behind it. I really do find it concerning that whenever you go into the internet, YouTube especially, there's very little with the NHF, and it's all the fear-mongering Lima Rabot, unfortunately. And I had Scott on my show, and as many of you, the guys will have heard on that show, that Lima Rabot tried to get the NHF kicked off Codex Alimentarius. So for me, that gives an idea where she lies, where her allegiances lie. With a free-running sort of NHF, it's more like her business ideal, if you like, and trying to get her foot in the door in that sense, and kicking everybody out the way as it goes. And the same as Mike Adams, the health ranger. He's gave the NHF absolutely no publicity whatsoever, never said anything about them really, and essentially took information from them and never even acknowledged the fact that it came from them. So that kind of tells me that their allegiances are not with the NHF either. That was actually sad to hear for me, because I actually was quite a big fan of the natural news. There was a lot of good info came out of there, and studies and stuff like that. So I'm not tarring everybody with the same brush. It just makes me wonder why they're not backing something like the National Health Federation, which has a vote on Codex, which is in place to do something about what the issues that we have in this world today. So why wouldn't they put their force behind the NHF? I can't understand that unless they had ulterior motives not to. And certainly for me, I think it's time that we try to give the NHF a big push and try and shove them forward to try and be a bit more of a force at Codex, try and realise their objectives, because they're actually fighting for us, guys. Simple as, they're fighting for us. They're our only voice in Codex. Simple. The rest are all big pharmaceuticals or countries. I'm going to read a bit of this article, just going to sort of scoot through it, and I know generally when you're reading something on the air that it's not terribly good, and as I say, my breathing isn't brilliant, guys, so I really will try and do my best. I'm going to bail out very shortly in the next maybe 10 minutes or so, because I'm finding that I really struggle to breathe and to be entertaining as such, because it's kind of drawing my attention away from what I really need to be saying. But anyway, Codex Alimentarius. The new laws requiring genetically modified crops, pesticides, hormones and antibiotics in food will be cost prohibitive to people living in the developing nations. Billions of people may die or at best become sick as a result of implementing these policies. The proposed Codex standards will be extremely detrimental to the environment and to your health. Codex is not just about nutritional supplements, but we will regulate control of the global food supply from field to stable to table. We must stop HR 875 and S425 Codex Alimentarius. I think these are the House Representative 875 or something in America. This article's aimed at America. Hopefully the facts will alarm you enough that you will want immediately to contact Congress and tell them how you feel about the World Trade Organization controlling and altering our food, water, health and environment. Once implemented, the damages done to humanity, wildlife and our planet are irreversible. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, guys, but it's going to put a whole big dent in it for sure. Mother Earth tends to take care of herself in the long run, and she'll sort herself out. The Codex Alimentarius Commission, organised by the United Nations in the 1960s, is charged with harmonising food and supplement rules among all nations of the world. As a result of Codex rules, these vitamins and minerals that would compete with medicines would require a doctor's prescription. The European Union has already adopted this Codex-style regulations that will be in effect across Europe later this year, and that's 2005. And that really is the case, guys. It's already been implemented. And this raises concern that Europeans will challenge our relatively open market for health supplements in the World Trade Organization forum. This is hardly far-fetched, as Congress has already changed their tax laws to comply with the World Trade Order. As I said, this is mainly American, guys, but I mean it's the same deal. Make no mistake about it, those international standards are moving steadily towards the Codex regime and its draconian restrictions on health freedom. Pharmaceutical companies have spent billions of dollars trying to get Washington to regulate your dietary supplements. So far that effort has failed, in part because of a 1994 law called Dietary Supplements Health and Education Act. Big Pharma and the medical establishment hate this act because it allows consumers some measure of freedom to buy the supplements they want. The largely government-run healthcare establishment, including the normally private pharmaceutical companies, want government to control the dietary supplement industries so that they can manufacture and distribute supplements providing any real benefit. If this takes place, as in Europe, the high-potency beneficial supplements, if this takes place, as it has in Europe, the high-potency beneficial supplements that you can now buy over the counter will be available, if at all, will not be available, if at all, I think that's different now. Only by prescription and at a much higher cost. This alone is sufficient reason for Congress to oppose the unconstitutional freedom-destroying CAFTA bill. FDA and Congress are also working, the FDA quite openly, Congress more covertly, towards the goal of harmonising our health laws with Codex Alimentarius standards and guidelines. Codex Alimentarius, which refers to a set of strict regulations covering all aspects of food, is Latin for food code or food regulations. This collection of food rules in Europe dates back to the standards enacted between 1897 and 1911, so this goes back a long way, guys, by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They were used as a legal reference by the courts, although Codex Alimentarius itself had no legal standing. Modern Codex regulations are prepared by Codex Alimentarius Commission, which works within the EU, the United Nations, and in an attempt to regulate every aspect of food production, packaging, preparation, preservation, and presentation of food, from farm to fork. Codex also attempts to regulate supplemental nutrients. It even goes so far as to eliminate organic produce standards through dilution. Codex's reach. Because the US is a member of the World Trade Organization, and because of the World Trade Organization and other treaty agreements require that the United States adhere to Codex standards. Any changes approved in Europe and implemented in the EU-dominated Codex meetings could subject the United States to World Trade Organization enforced trade sanctions. Codex will control, and it goes through a little bit of a list here, guys, vitamins, minerals and nutrients. 2. Genetically modified organisms. 3. Toxic residues. 4. Antibiotics, drugs, growth stimulants and other hormones in food animals. 5. Organic foods. And 6. Irradiation of food. The plan is to suppress all beneficial high-potency nutrients to allow only those and a few other vitamins and minerals that will be high-priced, low-dosage and synthetically made by drug companies. Codex regulations will become binding internationally. Any nation that has entered into trade agreements through the World Trade Organization and its adjunctive treaties will eventually be forced to adopt Codex standards. All new types of food supplements will be banned unless tested and approved in a drug-like manner. This is certain to be both time-consuming and unnecessarily expensive. The validity of such tests is doubtful. Well, they're not going to test a plant, guys, because they can't basically copyright it and they can't make any money in it, so nobody's going to test it in a drug-like manner. It's simple. A favourite ploy of the drug and government authorities is to use such small doses of a supplement that tests do not show any noticeable value. Codex standards are not based upon scientific or research findings rather than standards that are developed in a political atmosphere with seemingly obligatory EU and drug cartel approval. Organic foods. From the drug cartel's point of view, the primary advantage in getting rid of true organic food is that in the absence of quality food, people will become ill and buy more prescription drugs. As a lesser advantage, the farmers will buy more insecticides and chemical fertilizers. The standards and definitions of organic food will be changed. Under Codex, a farmer or rancher will be able to call his products organic when they are full of toxic poisons under Codex. Organic food may include as little as 70% organic contents, but this will not be noted on the labels. The other 30% can consist of poisons and contaminants. The new laws requiring genetically modified crops, pesticides, hormones and antibiotics in foods will be cost prohibitive to people living in the developed nations. Billions of people may die or at best become weakened and sick as a result of the policies. The all-over goal is massive population control. Codex is not based on science or democracy. Unelected government officials working in cooperation with vested industry and trade interests make decisions that result in domestic and international standards which in turn are to be enacted into law by the member states of the WTO. When the WTO was created, the enforcement mechanism for Codex and other international standards were created. With this enforcement mechanism in place, an increased incentive therefore arose to hijack the original purpose of Codex, i.e. to provide clean and safe food for the planet with no international barriers to the movement of that food, instead of promoting a restrictive governmental agenda of suppression of natural alternatives to the pharmaceutical medicines. So you're really kind of getting the picture here, guys, that it's not in our good interest, I don't think. The harm in harmonization. Through the process called harmonization, our legislators in Washington will be required to align America with harsh and restrictive Codex requirements, regulating international trade, distribution and food processing of food, herbs and nutrients. Those proposed standards will be extremely detrimental to the environment and to your health and blocking your access to many clean, unadulterated, life-enhancing foods. The FDA is currently at work preparing its own plans for directives for harmonization of our dietary supplement laws, so that they will fully agree with the excessive restrictive international standards set by EU-dominated Codex. What Codex will accomplish? These new standards and guidelines will protect the multi-million euro or European equivalent of dollars investments of the large drug companies as well as their own government-blessed monopolies. 2. Lead people away from natural healing methods, resulting in more power for the government medical pharma cartel, more suffering and death for the populace, and the further degradation of life on Earth. Codex's evil sister. The drug industry, recognizing the growing preference for natural remedies over pharmaceuticals, wants the nutritional supplements and herbs either to be forbidden or priced out of reach. In Europe, the drug cartel has succeeded in enacting the European Food Supplements Directive, which will accomplish that objective on the European continent very soon. This directive, which passed into the European Union law in 2002, was implemented throughout the EU on August 1, 2005. It is the first of several EU directives to impact national health care and is one of the basis for the vitamin and mineral food supplement guidelines adopted by Codex Alimentarius. I realise there's a bit of a long-winded bit coming up, guys, that's not of great interest, so I'm kind of just flip through it. Alright, okay. CAFTA agreements, which Americans will be familiar with CAFTA. Central American Free Trade Agreement. Special clauses have been inserted into the Central American Free Trade Agreement, CAFTA, designed to force America to submit to Codex standards after its enactment by the US Congress. CAFTA was passed by the US Senate and Congress in 2005. This laid yet another brick in the wall for the US government to eventually restrict vitamin and supplement sales in accordance with the German model of healthcare. Gradually, DSHEA, which protects the nutritional rights of Americans, is being nullified by these end runs, and the North American supplement companies, along with the health food stores, are being insidiously phased out. Yeah, it's insane, guys. It really is insane. Power behind the throne. Codex is a joint venture between the United Nations World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization. The WTO stated that it will enforce Codex-like guidelines as the world standard for trade in food and food supplements. Both FAO and the WHO are intended to protect the health and welfare of the world's population, but it's clear they've shirked this responsibility in regard to Codex. An immense German, French, US and British drug cartel is behind this. Codex is also working with other groups supporting the following agendas. 1. The chemical industry's aim that all animals be treated with antibiotics and hormones. 2. The largest seed company in the world, Monsanto, is working towards 100% genetically modified crops. 3. The nuclear industry's goal of irradiating all foods, including plants and livestock. 4. All industries' goal phasing out truly organic foods, at least making them extremely difficult to obtain. Actions by the European Union and the United Nations affect millions of lives. What makes it possible for the drug companies to have so much influence at the EU and UN and even within our own FDA? The answer is rather simple. Drug companies make excessive profits by overcharging on patented medical drugs. They claim that their profits are needed for research into new drugs, yet the cost of that research only come down to paying the salaries of some lab technicians. It is well known that most of the profits are used for lobbying politicians, advertising and similar methods of increasing sales. So, that kind of really gives it to you there, guys, and really what I'm hoping is that what I've just said to you there and what I've read out to you there gives you an idea of why I think it is really so important that we try and do something about Codex, really. And I'm just trying to find one little bit before I end up here, and it's not getting it. Right. These committees develop guidelines. There are more than 16,000 pages of working documents on every aspect of food and present those guidelines to Codex for ratification. Trade organizations with strong publicly documented ties to the pharmaceutical, chemical and agricultural industries have a very influential voice at these meetings. There have been no significant representation from health advocates, nutritional supplement manufacturers, natural healthcare professionals or similar groups at Codex meetings, except for the National Health Federation, which is the only health freedom organisation with official international non-governmental organisation (INGO) status at these meetings. The NHF are the only INGO voice consistently speaking out for the health freedom year after year at these meetings. The Codex Commission meets every year, alternating between Rome and Geneva, while its various committees meet at different host countries such as France, Germany, Canada, Australia, US, etc. The US representatives to Codex is well documented unsavoury connections to the very industries that stand to profit from the wholesale implementation of Codex standards. Insofar as the FDA is concerned, consumers have virtually no say at all. It's really sort of to the stage, guys, where we really have to try and do something about Codex. I've known about it since 2008, and apart from Scott Tips fighting, I think there really is nothing that's getting done, and I really think we should really try and get some weight behind this. The power in Codex. Here is one of the reasons why Codex can overrule the US dietary laws. In the United States Federal Register, dated October 11, 1995, the FDA's policy on standards states that where a relevant international standard exists or completion is imminent, it will generally be used in preference to a domestic standard. The US Constitution states that US treaties take precedence over US laws, therefore has been activity on Capitol Hill to prepare harmonization rules which will lock America into obeying Codex dietary standards. It is important to note that Codex Alimentarius operates under the system enshrined in Napoleonic legal code, under which anything not explicitly permitted is forbidden. In contrast to Napoleonic legal code, the US operates under the more sensible English-based common law, wherein anything not specified as forbidden is permitted. So that kind of gives you an idea. Well, EU law is all under Napoleonic law. Been through the law thing we earlier on, guys, but Napoleonic law is essentially you're guilty until you're proven innocent. English common law is you're innocent until you're proven guilty. In a nutshell, is essentially what that is. And most people are not aware that the EC are under Napoleonic law. So think about what you may, and you may realise that things are really against you guys. It's time that we really had to do something. And I know we keep saying this, but even if it's just keeping getting the word out, telling people what's going on, just generally sort of keep the momentum going with the information that's there. The 100 monkey effect will take effect or something. But eventually something's got to break, guys. We can try and do as many things as we can to try and ease the pain. But certainly one of the biggest things we could do is keep talking to your friends, neighbours, anybody you meet, and put your point of view over. Let them know that that's your feeling about things and it's your opinion, and let them have a wee think about it. So I know that's difficult. It's always going to be a problem, try to figure out where we've got to go in the future. But certainly, I don't think going out and protesting in front of policemen and getting battened on the head is a particularly good idea. So what we all need is to basically start thinking about how we can withdraw our energy from the system, and how we can affect the system in any particular way we can. Sorry guys, I'm going to have to take a wee tune break here. Welcome back to Awake Radio, folks, and simulcasting with Shaz's Radio, and I'm really pleased that I'm able to do that and say that now. It's been, well, I was going to say it was actually enjoyable to do the show and broadcast the Shaz's Radio. It is, but it's kind of been a tough struggle this evening, guys, and thank you for being patient with me. And I'm aware that it hasn't been the best of shows in the sense of my breathing and mental faculties, so to keep on with the show just for a little while longer, you guys that's on the site, if you go up on the banner on the right hand side, you'll see the National Health Federation. Please have a wee look at it, at least inform yourself what's going on with Codex, And if you really can't afford it, guys, try and become a member, because that's what that's what NHF survives on. And that's how they get to Codex meetings, is basically by members' contributions. And as Scott has said many times, and Paul has said many times, they won't sell your emails and things like that, so everything will be safe and secure. I really think we should try and do something in the area of trying to support them as much as we can, and I realise that not everybody isn't the financial capability of doing that. But if you can, I really urge you to do that, and I think you'll be well rewarded. I think you get magazines and stuff like that, and you get kept up to date what's going on with Codex. So please, for me, have a look at the site, take in the information at least, and promote it as much as you possibly can. And if you can, become a member. There was something I wanted to add about the Codex. Oh yeah, to give you an idea, the last Codex meeting in Rome, Scott actually gave us the first premiere of what actually happened with Codex. We were the first radio station to basically have the live information straight from Scott's mouth. So it kind of gives you an idea what the position we're in, and long may that continue. And I'm really glad that Scott's prepared to do everything he can for Awake Radio and try and get the word out in that sense for the NHF and what's happening with Codex. So I'm sure that we'll get Scott to pop in once in a while and basically give us updates that's happening with Codex and try and keep us informed as best as we can, because it is an important issue. And Scott's a very busy man, and I appreciate the fact that he said that to him on air, that whenever we need him, just give him a call. And really, getting it from the horse's mouth is the best place, really. Before I sort of go on to the last thing, if any listeners are out there, my Skype is granada.steve. I'll add you on Skype. If you have any pods that you wish to get played over, the period of hours that podcasts get played, send me a link, or even put them up into the chat. If there's anything that you think is relevant that we should play, then we'll certainly do our best for you. One, it'll help me, because I'm kind of running out of pods and things like that to try and, find and get something fresh. Although there's many in the memory banks, they'll just not come to me. And of course, we're just getting set up with a Wake PC, which is a dedicated PC for the radio. So I want to try and fill them up as much as we can. So we have as much variety to play for you as we possibly can. So it'll help me in the sense of having to try and find things, and also maybe give a little bit what you think is relevant to going out of the airways, and maybe open somebody's eyes up. So it doesn't matter what it is, obviously, guys. We don't censor. If you think if it's really sort of worthy, all I would suggest to you, if you do send a link, try and send us a link that really is the minimum of swearing, guys. We understand that people get passionate, and obviously if it's a visual presentation, then it's not going to translate too well over the radio. So although you some movies and some clips and that are okay, they're just little bits that are maybe visual, that's fine. But mostly, as I say, it's the language barrier. It's one of the things that we're really trying to do something about on Awake, in the sense that we have many listeners all over the world, and I believe that we'll be getting syndicated to 30 other the word just went clean out of my head. Other radio stations, in other words, 30 or so, maybe up to about 40, as far as what she was telling me. So we're aware that obviously we're going to be reaching different audiences and so on. And as she said on air too, that some of these radio stations have paid sponsors, and the last thing we want to hear is people swearing on air. And the most important thing here to remember, guys, is it's getting the word out. It's not about being swearing and sort of being the big man and being different from the TV, although there's just as much swearing on the TV now. I believe the little that I ever see tends to be bad language everywhere. But just bear that in mind if you're sending your pods in, that language has to be really kept to a minimum. As I say, we don't censor in any way, shape or form, but we just ask you, keep that to a minimum. Okay, I mentioned last week that I've got 4 new chickens, and yeah, the chickens have settled in fine. And I mean, obviously, I'm a bit of a chicken fan, as you guys know. And you're lucky you didn't get a chicken show tonight, because I kind of had a notion to do one and try and encourage people to start keeping chickens, or at least a few chickens and things like that, because it's dead easy, guys. But we got our chickens, and four of them. Three of them decided they were going to go fine. They were going to go to the coop and just be with the rest of the flock. But there was one brave soul that decided, oh, I'm going to be a chicken, and she went up into the trees and roosted in the trees all night. And we were rather concerned, and my partner was rather concerned that the fox might get her. But she survived the night, and the next night my partner decided, I'm going to get her and make sure she goes in. I'm not worrying all night again. And of course she was off ski again, up into the trees and doing what a hen should be doing. And for me, I'm quite happy to let her go in the tree, and she'll still be part of the flock. You know, she's just doing the thing that's natural to her, and the fox will probably not get anywhere near her up the tree anyway. She may well be in some degree a bit safer, the fact that she's up the tree. But after day 3, she decided to join the flock, and she goes into the coop now. So, you know, the chickens are great fun. They're great to watch. They're very productive in the way of eggs and things like that, guys. And you know, it's worthwhile doing. And if you are deciding to maybe get a chicken or two, certainly don't get one on their own. They always like company. And even if you've got a very small area in your back garden, it's possible to keep a few and then not be really any big deal. So I just thought I'd give you a little chicken update in the sense of the new chicks, and hopefully we're going to get a little bit more, and I'm putting my mind to maybe trying to breed some more chickens and try and live in this construct a little better, and maybe sell some eggs, and maybe sell some birds to people like yourselves that are maybe thinking about you know, keeping a few chickens and try to put them in the right direction, in the sense that don't get them vaccinated and feed them, you know, healthy non-GMO stuff, and you know, tell them some homeopathic remedies to keep their chickens healthy. Maybe be part of sort of the local community of keep saying about let systems and so on. Try to do something in that area. So hopefully, and it's a wee project for the future. Not that I have very much to do as it already is, but I will be trying. You know, I'm limited to what I could do, but it seems to be something that wouldn't take a great deal of energy to manage and achieve. So that said about the chickens and you know, codex and food and all the rest of it. There was a pod that I was going to play last week because I ran out of time. Rabbiting on too much and things, and I realised that I could have run over, and then there was a impromptu show after me, so it meant that I had to cut it out. So I could actually play it this week, guys. It's about 50 minutes long, and it's about Cuba, and it goes on about peak oil. And one of the things that I'm not a believer in is peak oil, but you know, read up on it, guys. Make your own decision of whether you think peak oil is relevant. But it's not the peak oil message, the thing that I'm trying to get over with this video. It's the fact that the Cuban people basically didn't stand still. They adapted and overcome. And, you know, in many ways that things actually turned out very much better, in the sense that, you know, the soil recovered and things like that, because they had to use natural products and things that were around them. And, you know, I just found it very uplifting to find that they had an imposed peak oil, if you like, or export embargo, which limited them to use what was around them. You know, I was fascinated, guys, in what these people can do and did, and I just thought it was very relevant, and I thought maybe put it on the air knowing that this peak oil thing was there. But whether you believe peak oil or not, guys, the point I'm actually trying to say about this video is the adaptability of man and women, and what we can actually do in the future. And if things do go badly wrong with economies, then this is something that we should look at their example of how that we can get out of it. So I've kind of done really for the night, guys. I'm really kind of struggling here. So I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm always surprised at the people that come and listen on the Monday evening, and it's always a pleasure. Although it's been a little bit of a struggle, guys, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I usually say till this time next week. Well, it'll be till this time on Friday, or 8 to 9 on Friday, and I shall speak to you then. Until then, take care, be good to each other, be honourable. Bye for now, guys.